Imagine a governor so beloved, so charismatic that he once joked that the only way he could lose an election was if he was caught in bed with either a dead girl or a live boy. The crowd laughed. He won in a landslide. His name was Edwin Edwards, Louisiana's silver fox, and for decades he was the most powerful politician in the state. He was also running a criminal enterprise from the governor's mansion. This is the story of how charm, corruption, and casino licenses turned one of America's most popular governors into a federal prisoner. Edwin Washington Edwards was born in 1927 in rural Louisiana and grew up speaking Cajun French. He was smart, charming, and impossibly charismatic. After serving in the Navy and practicing law, he entered politics and quickly rose through the ranks. In 1972, he was elected governor of Louisiana at age 44, becoming the state's first Cajun governor in modern history. Edwards was a phenomenon. He had the common touch, speaking to ordinary people in ways that made them feel seen and understood. He was witty, quick, with a one-liner, and fearless in his confidence. Louisiana voters loved him. He served as a governor from 1972 to 1980, then again from 1984 to 1988, and incredibly, a fourth time from 1992 to 1996. 4 terms as governor is extraordinary, and it speaks to his political dominance. But Edwards had another side. He loved gambling, fast living, and money. He frequented casinos in Las Vegas, was known for his high-stakes poker games, and enjoyed the finer things in life. His lifestyle raised eyebrows, but his supporters didn't care. This was Louisiana, where politics had always been colorful and corruption was almost expected. Edwards himself once said, "I never took an illegal dollar, but I took a lot of legal dollars that should have been illegal." That quote tells you everything about Edwin Edwards. He knew exactly what he was doing. The infamous quote. During his 1983 gubernatorial campaign against Republican Dave Treen, Edwards made his most famous statement. At a camping event, he told supporters, "The only way I can lose this election is if I'm caught in bed with either a dead girl or a live boy." The audience roared with laughter. It was outrageous, politically incorrect, and quintessentially Edwards. He was acknowledging his invincibility, his charm, and the loyalty of his voters all in one memorable line. And he was right. He won that election decisively. The quote became legendary, repeated in political circles for decades, an example of both Edwards' audacity and Louisiana's unique political culture. But it also reveals something darker. Edwards believed he was untouchable. He thought he could get away with anything because the voters loved him too much to care. For a long time, he was right. Early brushes with the law. Edwards had been investigated multiple times before his eventual conviction. In 1985, he was tried on federal racketeering charges related to hospital certificates and state contracts. The trial was a media circus, with Edwards holding court outside the courthouse, charming reporters and predicting his, acquittal. The jury deadlocked and the judge declared a mistrial. Edwards walked free. He was tried again in 1986 on similar charges. This time, he was acquitted. Edwards emerged victorious, his reputation somehow enhanced by a surviving federal prosecution. He seemed invincible, proving that his charisma could overcome even the FBI. But federal investigators never stopped watching him. They knew Edwards was corrupt. They just needed to catch him in the act. The casino scheme. In the 1990s, Louisiana legalized riverboat gambling, creating a boom in casino licenses. These licenses were enormously valuable, worth millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars to the companies that received them. The governor's office had significant influence over which applications were approved. Edwin Edwards, serving his 4th term as governor from 1992 to 1996, saw an opportunity. According to federal prosecutors, Edwards and his associates created a scheme to extort payments from companies seeking riverboat casino licenses. The setup was simple but effective. If you wanted a license, you needed to pay Edwards and a circle. The scheme involved Edwards, his son, Stephen Edwards, and several associates, including businessman Eddie DeBartolo Jr., the former owner of the San Francisco 49ers. Companies seeking licenses would make payments to Edwards or his associates disguised as legitimate business deals, consulting fees, or investments. In return, Edwards would use his influence to help them secure licenses. One key figure was Edward J. DeBartolo Jr., who paid $400,000 to Edwards in exchange for help securing a riverboat casino license. DeBartolo later cooperated with federal investigators, providing crucial testimony about how the scheme operated. Federal investigators, led by the U.S. Attorney Eddie Jordan, spent years building their case. They used wiretaps, financial records, and cooperating witnesses to document the payments and Edwards' role in the scheme. Unlike his previous trials, this time the evidence was overwhelming. The fall. In 2000, Edwin Edwards was indicted on federal racketeering charges related to the casino licensing scheme. The indictment detailed 26 counts including racketeering, conspiracy, extortion, money laundering, and mail fraud. At 72 years old, Edwards faced the prospect of spending the rest of his life in prison. The trial began in January of 2000 and lasted months. Prosecutors presented detailed evidence of the scheme, including testimony from DeBartolo and others who had participated. They showed how Edwards had enriched himself through his public position, violating the public trust for personal gain. Edwards' defense was that he had done nothing illegal, that the payments were legitimate business transactions, that he had not used his office corruptly. He maintained his characteristic confidence, even joking with reporters outside the courthouse. But this time, the charm wasn't enough. On May 9, 2000, the jury convicted Edwin Edwards on 17 counts of racketeering, conspiracy, extortion, money laundering. His son Stephen was also convicted. The Silver Fox, who had survived multiple investigations and trials, had finally been caught. On September 13, 2000, Judge Frank Pulizzola sentenced Edwin Edwards to 10 years in federal prison. It was a stunning fall for a man who had once been the most powerful politician in Louisiana. Prison and release. Edwards reported to federal prison in October of 2002. After exhausting his appeals, he was 74 years old. He served his sentence at the Federal Medical Center in Fort Worth, Texas, and later at a facility in Louisiana. Even in prison, Edwards maintained his spirits and his sense of humor, reportedly charming fellow inmates and prison staff. He was released in January of 2011 after serving 8 years of his 10-year sentence. With credit for good behavior, he was 83 years old. Most politicians in his position would have retreated into quiet retirement, trying to rebuild their relationship and reputation, or at least stay out of the spotlight. Not Edwin Edwards. Within months of his release, he married a woman 51 years his junior, a marriage that would later be featured in reality TV. In 2014, at age 86, he announced he was running for Congress. He didn't win, but he made headlines and reminded everyone that he was still the same charismatic, audacious Edwin Edwards. Edwin Edwards proved that charisma and corruption can coexist, that voters will forgive almost anything if you can make them laugh, and eventually even the most charming politician faces consequences. His story is a reminder that public office is a trust, not a business opportunity, and that no one, no matter how beloved, is truly above the law. What do you think about Edwin Edwards? Brilliant politician or a cautionary tale? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more political scandals.